Guys, this is amazing. Look at this room of incredible people. I'm so glad you could all make it out here. In fact, I think I've seen a few of you guys on the virtual things as well. I see some familiar faces around. So, hey, thanks for coming out. What an amazing day, and I'm sure you guys are already pumped for a huge day. So, I guess I'm first cab off the rank, right?
Anything.
Yeah.
Set the bar.
Set the bar. We're going to set it high.
Set it too high. That's what I like to do.
Not the last night high. I'm talking.
Yeah.
No. I want to
give it up for Bernard, everybody.
Look at this.
Yes.
This is like deluxe.
Straight out of my therapist's office, these chairs.
Yeah.
Thank you on such short notice, by the way. This is amazing that you were
right. I mean, let's why don't we just talk about that for a little moment? I feel terrible for Socks. He obviously got COVID, so he was unable to come out, and I think he's really disappointed because to come out here and feel this energy of all these people who really adore the show is a real treat for someone to come out from Australia and enjoy this. So I'm disappointed for Socks, but yeah, I was able to. I am actually a US citizen as well as an Australian citizen. I have two passports. So I was able to just come out, without having to do all of the visas and stuff like that.
So that helps.
It does. It helps. Yeah.
Well, as I said, thank you. We don't want to waste any more time talking to me. We want to talk to the Wentworth Con fans who have already lined up to ask you guys questions. So why don't we start on the left side of the room, if you want to say your name, where you're from, and start with your first question for Bernie here.
All right. Well, my name is Dana, and I'm actually from California. So, nice little travel. Scratch Chicago off my bucket list right quick. I'm a very big fan of Wentworth. Watch this show all the time, in my sleep, in the daytime, and night. Sometimes it just pops up on my phone on accident. I don't know how it happens, but it happens. But actually, my main question I have so many, and I do love your acting. But one of my favorite things was when you pissed yourself outside of that club. I was curious.
It's funny. It's my favorite scene too.
Who are you more afraid of, Ferguson, Turk, or Vera?
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty curious.
Well, we're going deep real early, right? We're going on a deep dive right here.
What you got for me?
Oh, man. I think Vera is I think he was scared of Vera in a certain way, but also, I wouldn't call it. He was too scared of her. I mean, she could be fierce, right? And
she definitely grew into those pants.
Yes. Oh yeah. The big girl pants with the clip-clop heels and stuff, flopping around the prison. Yeah. And Turk was another thing as well, right? I mean, obviously that was the whole thing about, he had a gun stuffed in his mouth and.
That's enough to make you piss yourself.
Oh yeah. I can't say that for experience, but maybe you can. But that's another story. No. And tech guys, I'm not going to do the mic drop at all. Okay, so I wouldn't do it to you. I have more respect. But I think Ferguson. I think definitely Ferguson for Jake. The kind of the unknown quantity to Ferguson that you just can't really get a read on her, and I think we sort of over the course of the seasons there was a lot of discussion about what if you were to if she was to be psychoanalyzed, what would be the diagnosis. And
she's just crazy as hell. That's about
it. But I think in terms of diagnosable sense, she's a psychopath, or a sociopath. So. You just don't know, with that sort of a personality, it's so hard, you can't, it's unpredictable, you can't work out what she's going to do next, and then obviously, when someone's got a personal vendetta against you, it becomes really scary. And then I think that the thing that compounded that was then when Grace and Jake, when Vera and Jake had baby Grace. And then it changed his kind of whole outlook about, what was, about keeping someone safe, it's all, I think that when we first meet Jake, it's all about himself. He was a sort of a survivor sort of type of person who was only in it for his own personal gain, the whole drug dealing thing and everything. But then when he had baby Grace, I think everything sort of shifted for him, and we saw that kind of nice transition for Jake into someone who was probably a selfish person to someone who was selfless and wanting to protect his family. You know, even Vera, even though they weren't together anymore, he still wanted to protect her and to protect baby Grace. And I think that was the thing that I think he would have been most frightened about, was Ferguson somehow doing something in revenge to his baby or to the person that I think he still loves, which is Vera. Does that answer your question?
I'll take it.
All right. Okay.
Great question, thanks a lot. We're going to go over to the right side of the room. We like to start it off with the self-urination question, and then we'll work on it.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead in the blue on the right.
Hi, Bernie. I'm Alicia.
Hi, Alicia.
Hi, I met you on the virtuals.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to say I'm always consistently touched by how generous you guys are with your fans and you show up. So thank you for being here. I know it was last minute, so
Thanks,
we're
Alicia.
truly grateful. I'm an actor, and one of the things I always am curious about is, when you're working on a show like this that's so, big and top secret and keeps secrets better than anybody. How is it as an actor? How much do you guys know, and how is it challenging to I guess, create certain things and you don't necessarily, not that you know as the actor where it's going anyway, right? Because the character doesn't.
Yeah.
But like in terms of choices you make, if there's not something you're told that would have been useful, is that challenging or so?
It's a great question. Thanks, Alicia. And let me just go back to the very start of what you said when you say you're grateful for what we give to the fans and stuff. I reciprocate that. I feel like, and hopefully all the girls coming up today, we feel grateful to you guys, because without you guys, without all the fans around the world, well, we wouldn't have been able to do 8, 9 seasons of a TV show, right? And we wouldn't be able to come out to these kind of events, because this is what it is. This is what shows us the love that people have for this show, and the enduring love. Like, the show is finished, but those people still have that great passion for the show. And I want to just extend my gratitude to everybody here, because without you guys, we didn't have a show. So thank you. And it's a mutual love society, right? So it's coming right back at you. Thank you. Now, onto the next part of the question. Yeah, it was kind of like, as an actor, we would, we've got these scripts to work with, and that's one of the great joys of working on Wentworth. Is this, we got given great scripts, right? You can see it on the screen. It's, but it's also a collaborative process. With the head writer Marcy Gardner, you would get the scripts, and if something didn't quite resonate with you, or so you wanted to change something. For instance, there was one line there, the one about what I said. I don't give a shit if it's unicorn juice, it's still contraband. I actually made that one up myself. I'm very proud of it. The original line was, I don't care if it's gnat's piss. Right, gnat's piss. And I'm like, well, it doesn't really going to give me an image. And I was working through different things that I could say instead of gnat's piss. And I arrived on unicorn jizz. And I got to the scene, and it wasn't actually in the script. I didn't actually make an amendment, because you do an amendment, and then everybody gets the amendment. So now the line's going to be this. It was just on the day. I sort of said, hey, look. In fact, I was talking to Kate Box and Zoe, where we were having a little in the green room. We were talking about stuff. I said, I want to change that line to Nat's piss one. What do you think of? I don't give a shit if it's unicorn juice. It's still contraband. And they were like, oh yeah, I like it. It's kind of, it works, because it's the kind of thing of like Red was it's that whole thing of taking something to change, to try to transition from who she was to he should be, to Red, who Red should be. And I just felt like that unicorn juice actually fitted quite nicely. Anyway, yeah, right.
You made the right choice.
We made the right choice. That's right. And so, it is a collaborative process, and then it's kind of like, how you guys sit down and you go, oh, I'm going to watch another episode of Wentworth, I wonder what's going to happen now. That's what we would do when we get the scripts, right? You're sitting there reading, and mostly one of the most enduring kind of feelings is, I hope I don't die. You're literally reading through, because it's kind of like the Game of Thrones thing, you know, like Rob Stark or something, you know, you read and go, oh shit, I'm dead. Alright. That actually happened to me in like the second last episode where I was flicking through and there's sort of dream sequence. It was written as it actually happens, and then it's only after you've finished reading it that you go, and then Ferguson wakes up from her revelry of, you know, standing next to Jake, and so I thought, shit, I'm dead. She's got me, bang, break my neck in the lift, and now I'm dead. Oh no, I'm still alive, yay! But it's entertaining because you're reading a screenplay, right? You're like, oh, right. And you know, people would be sitting in the green room, sitting on their scripts and stuff, and you'd hear this like, ooh. And they turn and they go, you're a bad motherfucker. Right? I'm like, what do I do? Because I hadn't read the script. What do I do? Oh no, I'm not going to tell you what you did. You've got to read the script. So we're reading it going, oh shit, I'm a bad motherfucker. So we go on that journey as much as anybody who watches the show, right? And I actually also like to watch the show with my wife as well, right? So my wife Sonia and I will actually sit and watch the show. And sometimes even she was be like, we're sitting next to each other on the couch and she's like, I fucking hate you, right? I'm like, what? She goes, how can you do that to Vera? You're sleeping on the couch. What? Just doing the job, man. So, you know, we also really enjoy watching the show. But back to the point where, you know, when you're reading the scripts, you get this great kind of, you're going on this journey with everybody and you read the scripts. And then we always would have a table read for a block. A block of episodes is 2 episodes, and a director would direct 2 episodes at a time. So you have a block read for the 2 episodes in this block that you're going to shoot. And it's a table read, so everybody is sitting around this boardroom table, the whole cast. And I remember Kevin Carlin, who is the original setup director of episode 1, series 1, episode 1, and continued to sort of do the first 2 and usually the last 2 episodes of a season. He would always say, all right, welcome everybody to the table read, and to the actors, if I can just ask you to do, approximate performance pitch, which means go for it, you know what I mean? Like we were sitting around the table and then there's boomers sitting up going, fuck you, you fucking, you know, standing up, whatever, and, you know, people screaming at each other and stuff. So he said, if we can try and approximate performance pitch, rather than just reading it, read, we're reading it with gusto, we're reading it, putting it into, you know, the energy that it requires into, you know, each kind of scene. So, again, we got to sort of listen to the scripts as everybody's reading them and performing them, and then you get to the set and you also do rehearsals, and then you get to the set and you shoot it. So, you know, it is a pretty long process of developing a particular scene from when you read it, you know, when it's written, obviously, and then you read it, and you have a table read, and then you rehearse it, and then you get to the set, and then you're ready to go and you shoot the scene. So often that process was put in place so that you didn't get to set and go, now, I just don't know if I should say this at this time, and You've ironed all that out, so when you get to set, you're away you go. And then of course, yes, it's hard to sort of keep it all under wraps, you know. Sometimes I would sort of be reading my script in bed with my wife next to me, and I'm going, ooh, and she's like, don't fucking tell me what happens. I don't want to know. You know, spoiler alert. So, it sometimes is a bit difficult to try to keep it in. If there's something that's like, wow, that's an incredible moment, you know, like you go, oh, I just have to wait until that gets on the screen and see what the reaction is going to be, you know. But I hope is that kind of, I know I've been long-winded, I tend to talk a lot, so thanks, Alicia. Cheers.
Thank you so much. We can go back over to the left. Go ahead.
Hi Bernie, my name's Brianne, I'm from Michigan.
Hi Brianne.
So Wentworth has obviously been such a big part of our lives for so long. Amazing writing, amazing season finales, all that kind of stuff. I was just hoping that you could shed some light on the final season, more specifically probably the season finale. What went into the writing of that? Like how you guys were collaborating, like we were just talking about. with wrapping it up, because I feel like some of the storylines were left open-ended, and I was wondering if that was intentional.
Yeah, I don't think it was intentional in terms of, are we going to bring this show back? It was definitely, that was the end. In fact, at the end of season 7, they had told us that as well, so we were always like, maybe, maybe not, but that was definitely by the end of 8B, they're calling it, which is really season 9. It's a definite, you know, there was no more coming back. And we're also, you've got to understand the conditions under which we were working as well. So we were one of the only productions to be able to come out of the Melbourne, we were shooting in Melbourne, we had a huge lockdown because of COVID at the start of 2020. That went for 3 months. The production got shut down for 3 months as the whole of the world went into this kind of lockdown situation. Then Melbourne came out, we came out of it, we had cases sort of down, and then we sort of like, right, we were able to mitigate it, you know, a fair way, and we came out of it, and there's another show in Australia called Neighbours, which is more of a soap style show, and they had put together this sort of COVID protocol document about how they were going to shoot. And they were like, okay, actors have to stand 2 meters away from each other, and we'll shoot over the other person's shoulder to make it look like they're closer to each other, right? And all of the actors got together, I had a Zoom meeting, all the Wentworth actors, and we said, there's no way we're going to make this show under those kind of conditions, right? And they had sort of separated all the different sort of households into actual zones at the studio, so they didn't mingle with each other at all. And we're like, no, this is not the show you can be standing you have to be standing 2 meters away from someone. We've got to be in each other's faces and spitting at each other and bashing each other and fucking each other and that sort of stuff, you know? So we're not prepared to make this show under those conditions. So we all got together and basically forged a new document, which was this this COVID protocol sort of document, which still stands as a kind of template for TV and film production in Australia today. And what the document that we put together, we helped put together, is still that kind of template for that, the production protocols under a COVID situation. So we were able to, we were able to shoot the next 12 weeks that we had to pick up of that final season. As Melbourne then went into another full lockdown, this is like called stage 4 restrictions, which is like you couldn't leave, you only leave your house for like an hour per day for exercise. There was a curfew, like 8 p.m. or something. Everyone had to be inside their house and not leave their house. It was fully heavy duty. And we were able, because of this document, the government said, all right, you can continue to shoot. So we kept shooting. But it was really full on, like, full on lockdown. And so we had to change a few things. And here's an example of that. In terms of the collaboration of like, how do we achieve this situation? And this is something that I wasn't able to talk about for a long time, and now I can because it's already screened. There's a scene in the final episode where Vera is about to poison Ferguson with the borax, poison in her milk. That scene was initially, the scene was she had poured this borax into the milk and she put it into her fridge. I was coming over because she had to go and help Anne with something, and I was coming over to look after Grace, and it was in Vera's house. She leaves the house and I'm like, where's the milk? And I get the milk, put it into the bottle, and I'm literally about to give the bottle to baby Grace. That was what was written originally. And then because we were shooting on campus and we couldn't really do any location work because why is 100 people standing outside on a street or inside a house together when everyone else in Melbourne is in full lockdown? There would have been an issue with that from the public. So we had to stay inside the compound, which was where Wentworth was set, which was an old university building, and they built it all in situ. But we had to sort of stay on campus. So that whole sequence got rewritten to I was about to go and put it in my coffee, and then Vera comes back. I think it was more powerful, obviously, with me about to give that poison to baby Grace. It's like full on, right? But so that's an example of things that we just had to kind of, make a few sacrifices. And when it comes to the big finale, the bomb going off and that sort of stuff, I hope I'm not spoiling it for anyone who hasn't quite seen the final episode. I'm just assuming everyone's seen the final series, right? You've had enough time. If you haven't, you've had enough time, it's your own fault.
Yeah, you can leave now if the statute of limitations is up on spoiler.
Exactly. So we you know, not everybody was happy with that big finale with the, you know, that kind of the sort of happy family kind of tracking shot back with the, where's Ali? Oh, here she comes. Oh, isn't it great? You know, kind of, let's sing a little song and you know, kumbaya and stuff. But you can't please everybody, right? I mean, ask the producers of Game of Thrones and Lost. You know, you can't. When you finish something that has meant so much to so many people, how do you finish it that everybody goes, oh yeah, what a great finish, what a you know, I love how that wrapped up and it ended. So, you know, was everyone happy with that final ending? No, but we were. It was kind of like we were under such kind of crazy circumstances of shooting that thing that we were kind of like, I guess there was a sense of relief that we even made it through to the final episode. We didn't have one case of COVID in the crew or cast over the course of that 12 weeks that we were shooting. So we were pretty happy and pretty proud of that fact. And we're like, right, at least we got it finished and it didn't completely fall down and we didn't even finish the season and stuff. So, you know, we were kind of, I guess it was a bit of a compromise in terms of the integrity of the show. But it's actually surprising to me. A lot of people come up and they go, I love that ending. I thought it was great, you know, really, you know, a beautiful sort of, I guess, a happy-ish ending, you know, not a happy ending for Anne or some of the other people that died in the bomb or whatever, but, you know, in general, Ferguson disappears, she kind of lets Spira off the hook, Ali survives and she comes out and the family is reunited again and stuff, so, you know, it was a sort of a happy-ish ending and stuff, and some people say they really love that ending, so, and some people say, that's not Wentworth enough, you know? Everyone should have died. Right? Fucking just a body count of just all the lead actors. So you just go, okay, so it's definitely not coming back. Unless it's a prequel.
Right, that's how you do it now. You're Breaking Bad. Oh, Walter White's dead? Well, not in the past, he's not.
Oh, thanks.
We're going to go to our, thank you, that was a great question.
Thank you, great question.
We're going to go to our next question on the right.
Hi, I'm Katie, actually from here, Chicago. And my question for you, Bernie, is as a fan watching this show, I mean, maybe you all can agree with me, I hated Jake. I'm like, God, this guy sucks. Like, Fletcher was bad, but he was at least tolerable.
Yeah.
At one point, maybe you loved Jake from the start. Is there a point where, when you're reading your script, you're like, okay, kind of like this guy? Because, like me, I wanted to hate him.
Yeah.
And he was really hard to hate those final few seasons.
Right. That's thanks for the question. That was one of the great things about playing Jake, right? And so I was actually living in Los Angeles with my family, you know, kind of working as an actor, and I did this self-tape audition for this thing. I had not even seen any of Wentworth, and already there were 3 seasons that were out there. I had to actually ask my brother, who's also an actor, I said, what's this Wentworth thing like? And he goes, well, you know, he's an actor, and he's a very good barometer of these sorts of things, he said. Well, I thought that, you know, when they were saying they were going to remake or reimagine Prisoner, I thought they could fuck this right up, you know what I mean, and this could be really shit. But he said it's actually really good. This is a good show, and it's really highly, you know, the critics really love it as well. It's really highly acclaimed and critically acclaimed. So I came out to do the show, and I had the first meeting with Pino, who's the producer, and Marcia, who's the head writer. And she was really excited. I was like, I love this Jake character. He's great, man. You know, because I only had the audition scenes and the character breakdown. That's all I really knew about Jake. And they sat me down and walked me through from season 4, episode 5, I think I come in, right through to the end of the season, and I'm like, holy shit! Wow, I didn't realize that this was where Jake was going, and then into season 5, it really, you know, went to the next level, and so initially I was like, oh god, I'm going to struggle doing all of this stuff because he's such an asshole. Like, you know, like it's really like some of the stuff that he does is really reprehensible. You know, loathsome kind of selfish behaviour, and you know, I really had to act, of course. So, but you know, I did it, and one of the kind of compliments I used to get, and I would take it as a compliment, was people coming up to me in the street going, I hate you. Right? and I'm like, I'll take that as a real compliment because that was my job. My job was to be this real asshole who's like, you don't really like much. So I felt like I had sort of fulfilled that brief because people coming up saying, you know, I hate you, man. You're the worst. I hate you. And then, but it meant that there was a reaction. You know what I mean? If people just kind of go, oh, there's that guy from Wentworth. He's a bit blah, and you know, I don't really have anything to say to him. I would feel like that's it. Like I haven't really kind of succeeded in my job. You know, but they, you know, when people come and they go, I've got to tell you how much I hate you. You know, I've got to come and tell you how much I hate you. I'm like, great, thanks. That's a rare, thank you. It's a rare thing if people come and say they hate you. Is you going, thanks, thank you very much. Good, nice compliment. But I think there was an obvious point at which, you know, we see Jake, like I was saying before, shift. You know, and they did say, they were saying, look, this is a story of redemption. We do want to redeem Jake, and we want him to shift his focus and his priorities and what he really wants in life from serving himself, self-serving, all that sort of stuff, to then being someone who is doing, you know, protecting other people and being selfless in that situation. So I think obviously the moment that he found out that Vera was pregnant, obviously there was a lot of conflict in that because she actually hated him, right? And she's like, we're having a baby, and he's like, okay, I'm going to be a father. But then having to go through that whole pregnancy, knowing that the partner that you've had, that you're going to have a child with, loathes you, is tricky, right? So you know, it was. I think for Jake, it was. He changed that focus, that priority, to then. I think he wanted to redeem himself in Vera's eyes, and that's part of what, you know, we see in Jake's redemption. Is that he wanted to be seen in Vera's eyes as the sort of the type of person that can be a father to Grace. Even if they're not together, he can still be a father and he can still be part of her life, you know, both of their lives. And so that, I think, was for Jake's focus and Jake's sort of change of heart to have his different ideals. So I think that's the moment that Jake turned around and started to redeem himself. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, do you feel like as an actor that's your point too, where you started to enjoy this character a little bit more?
Oh, you know what? I enjoyed doing all the bad stuff as well. In fact, I enjoyed all of it. Like, I don't want to. As an actor, I enjoyed all of it because if you ask any actor, what do they prefer, playing a hero or playing a villain? They'll say villain every time. It's more fun, right? Pamela Ray, I've asked her. She's like, oh my God, it was delicious. Yeah, so I enjoyed it all. Yeah.
Thank you for the question. You mentioned, I mean, you're U.S. citizen as well. You spent a lot of time. Did it surprise you when you learned how popular this show, an Australian show, was here in the States?
Yeah, it did. It really actually did surprise me. The first time I got that surprise was actually in Vancouver, and I finished season 4. And because I was living in LA prior to that, I had done an episode of a thing called Once Upon a Time, which also has a very big fan following, right? Yeah. And then while I was back in Australia, my US representation sort of called up and said, hey Bernie, Once Upon a Time, I want to get you back and do another episode. So we worked it out, scheduling with Wentworth. I finished on Wentworth a little bit earlier on that season. They sort of shot me out. Flew straight to Vancouver and went into wardrobe the very next day for Once Upon a Time. And I was in there, and so one of the costumers in the costume department was saying, so what have you been working on, Bernie? I'm like, I'm just doing this little thing called Wentworth. He's like, oh my God! I died for that show! I died! I'm like, oh really? Oh my God, I died for that fucking show! And I said, oh yeah, I'm playing this new kind of guy, sort of duplicitous guy. Oh my God, you're going to be amazing, Bernie. Oh my, you know, like, so I was like, oh well, this is actually I'm in Canada right here, and this person's like, I live for this show, I die for this show, whatever. But that's the first time I was like, oh okay, this is not just an Australian thing, this is an international thing. And of course, over the last few years of working the show, it's quite clear how popular this. Popular, I say, it is popular. But it's not like Game of Thrones popular. It's popular to a select kind of group of people, right? But it's it's more than that. It's more than just being like, I like the show. I think if you like this show, you love this show. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, this is so, and I can see it in this audience. I mean, this is just an example of this, of how deeply this show gets people, you know, to the core, to their heart, and it speaks to them. And, you know, I think to women in general, like, you know, I want to single out women because it's that show, right? It is groundbreaking in the kind of characters that women get to play that aren't the kind of subservient housewife, like blah, 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 right? These are real people, right? And strong people. It's people who, you know, like, yeah, right? I mean, that was one of the great joys from the female actors on the show, playing these incredibly strong women. But also, you know, that's a great joy of mine, to play this character who, you know, had his strengths, had his weaknesses, had his flaws. Of course he was a flawed character. You know, you only want to play people who have some flaws. And so that's, you know, it's a great joy to be able to play something like that too, because you know how much it means to people, you know. So yeah, it's another sense of gratitude that we have for you guys.
It means a lot to you guys, right? Yeah. So we have 3 more on this side and then 2 on that side. We'll get to all you guys. So let's start over here on the left.
Hi Bernie, my name is Autumn and I'm from Wisconsin.
Hi, Autumn.
My question is, if you could be any other character, guy or girl, on the show, who would you be?
Another good one, Autumn. Yeah, thank you. If I could be another character, guy or girl. Look, it's really hard to go past Ferguson as a character player, right? Sean Brody was another one that I thought he did a really good job. The guy who played Sean, and that was a fun character to play, right? Just a little season of kind of, you know, doing all these kind of cool things, and then at the end, this huge siege where he's kind of locking down the prison and shooting people. So that would have been fun as well. No, but I think Ferguson just has that sort of like, but not that I think I could have played Ferguson in any stretch, because I just feel like Pamela Ray, there's no one else who could have done that. Yeah. And I know for a fact that the Pam, Pino was actually telling us the story about how Pam was cast, you know. Because I was actually asking, I said, how? Because that's a character that needs someone who's incredible, right? I said, how did that go, casting Pam? He goes, well, we went after Pam. You know, she was number 1 on our list. We were like, because Pamela is more, I guess, her career has more been on the stage in theatre, and I've seen her in a bunch of stuff. You know, I even had a bit of a crush on her, you know what I mean? When I first came, I was like, what's Pamela Ray? I've seen her in like so many plays back in Melbourne, and you sit there and just watch her on stage and just go, oh, wow, amazing, the voice and the presence, and she's an incredible stage actor. So it was in essence, it was an obvious choice, but it was also not a super obvious choice of getting someone who's like a screen actor so much, but getting a stage actor to do this character. So they went after Pam and they said, Pam, we really want you to play Ferguson. And I've talked to Pam about this as well. She was like, I just don't know about this. You know, I don't know. It's such an iconic role, right? Because Maggie Kirkpatrick really made it something in Prisoner. And so she was like, she feels like she had a bit of trepidation about playing the role. And then they came back to her and were almost pretty much like begging her, please Pam, can you do this role? We want you to do the role. And she ended up saying, all right, let's go, let's do it and stuff. And then the rest of course, is history. But I can't think, I don't know of anybody who I could think that could actually play, that could pull it off in Australia, you know, Australian actresses or even English actresses or American, but you know, Meryl Streep maybe. I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
I love Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
You know, so but yeah, so that's I think Ferguson would be my choice to play. Thanks,
for the
Autumn.
question. Over here on the right.
Hi, my name is Pat. I'm from Fort Collins, Colorado.
Hi, Pat.
Okay, so a couple things. First of all, again, thank you so much for filling in and coming here.
It's my pleasure, it really is.
That had to have disrupted your life a bit, but we're the game for it, so. And secondly, at my house, we very much enjoyed this show called My Life is Murder.
Oh, yes.
And very much enjoyed it until this last year when we had to begin mourning because they moved over to New Zealand and
Yes.
kind of got lost in the.
Right.
So anyway, you were great on that show as well.
Thank you.
Which was a bit of a change then from having watched you forever.
Yeah.
Big Jake.
Yeah.
And I guess my question is not a lot different from other ones, but it's more a psychological type question. You know, Jake's character had this big wildness, and I never could tell what was going on in his head and heart, or if his heart sometimes seemed in there and sometimes not. And I just was wondering, did you always feel like you had him nailed down?
Yeah, oh, that's a good question, Pat. Thank you. Look, I think as an actor, it's really important to, and sometimes it can be hard to do this, but really trust the writers and trust the director and the editor and all the people that are kind of working to kind of put, you know, because it's a collaborative process. I always feel like it's a collaborative process. It's not just a cast. It's a cast, it's a crew, it's the financial people, it's, you know, it's basically, it's everybody. So we always would feel as though that is part, you know, that it's a real team effort. And as part of that, you do need to trust that the writers have developed the character correctly. Now, we are bringing the character to life. We have to kind of, inform all of the decisions that the character makes with our own experiences and substitutions. And these are some of the kind of the things that actors do to sort of, because I haven't been in that position myself of doing some of the things that Jake has done, but you can sort of substitute things in your life that mean something to you or whatever, and substitute those in with those things. But yeah, so I don't think there was ever really a time when I felt like kind of that I was at sea with the character, that I just didn't know quite what was going on. Because you're right, it was hard to sort of pin Jake down as to what his motives were and what drove him and what were those sort of things that mattered to him. But I always trusted that the writers knew who Jake was, and that the development of the character was, had truth to it, and the essence of it was a real person who had real motives and real, things that he loved and things that he didn't like and stuff like that. So, and then you've got to place your trust in the director. The director is going to create this scene to do the script justice, and then the editor then, puts all of those little bits together, so that's what you see on the screen. So we're lucky that we had such great writers and such great editors and such great directors, right? Because it was a high quality show that was really well respected in the Australian community, the Australian acting community. So the writers, the producers, everybody, the complete creative kind of elements all got together, and you just had to trust that it was going to go well. Now that still means there are things that you can say, I don't think he would do this. Like, I don't think Jake would do this. And then then it becomes a collaborative process. You can change things, and you can sort of shift stuff around and do different things and come up with ideas. To a certain extent, you can't completely change things and say, I want to just change everything about this character, of course. But yeah, there has to be that level of trust in the scripts and what you're doing. So it really was a family, and I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's because we were shooting on this one sort of campus. And they had a lot of even the green wall project in the factory and stuff, and the warehouse, that was still on that same property. The executive offices, the cells, the laundry, the outside with the exercise yard and everything, that was all built into the building. And then upstairs you had the actual production office where you had the production manager and the production assistants and stuff like that. And then, you know, the actual, the production accountants were down the hall, and then there was the editors and the writers and the art department, and everybody was in the one building. So normally on a film shoot or something, I've been shooting a thing at the moment called Savage River, which is directed by a woman by the name of Jocelyn Morehouse, who did The Dressmaker. I'm not sure if you've seen that film. But a lot of the stuff was shot on location all around. So when you have lunch, production lunch is just the crew getting together and they have lunch. It's like a catered lunch sort of thing. Whereas on Wentworth, the production office would come down, the editors would come down, the accountants, the writers, everyone is having lunch together as one big family. And then you'd get Robbie Magasiva. Whenever someone had a birthday, right, he would make a big deal about it. I don't know if you've seen some of those videos where he's dressed up as Dolly Parton or something, singing Islands in the Stream with one of the camera guys dressed up as Kenny Rogers. I mean, he would do these huge production numbers if it was someone's birthday, you know. He had me come and play guitar to Kat Chambers, she was supposed to go to France, and she couldn't go because we changed the schedule, so she couldn't go to Paris. And he set up this little Parisian cafe, it was her birthday. And I would sit there and play guitar for her while she was served her lunch by him dressed as a French waiter, you know, serving her lunch, you know, and we had a big cake and everyone sang happy birthday. Yeah, so, you know, those sorts of things. It was a real family. We all worked together, and it was, you know, yeah, we were a family. So it was one of the great professional joys of my life to work on Wentworth. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks over here.
Hi there, my name is Elise.
Hi.
I'm from Wisconsin. I just wanted to say that you have amazing energy. Like, you're so awesome.
Thank you very much.
Happy belated birthday again.
Oh yeah, it was last weekend, yeah, last Sunday. Thank you very much.
Also, thank you for being here last minute, you know. Awesome.
Like I said, it's really my pleasure. I love being here, it's great.
Alright, so I kind of have like a two-part question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So obviously Jake's character has done some really terrible things like throughout the series. You know, first personal gain and out of fear. What was the most psychologically draining scene for you to film?
Oh yeah, right.
And like, how did that affect you as a person?
That's a good question, right? Yeah. I mean, I think it was probably the scene in the car when I'm about to kill myself. Right, you know, there's the whole process of like he tapes the hose around the tailpipe and he's got to put it through the windows. It's deliberative, you know what I mean? You actually have to be consciously doing it. It's not like you just kind of go, I'm going to put a gun in my head and fire the bullet and that's an instant thing, right? It's this kind of real process of like doing all of these things, then turning on the car and the carbon monoxide coming into the car, and you know, you've got time to process all this stuff, you know, so it was really, you know, because I was really trying to relive all of those shitty things that he had done to develop all of that, the amount of self-loathing that he has to have to go through that process and, you know, kind of do all that whole thing and then sit in the car and start it up and, you know, it was a really tough scene to play because of all of those things that are going on, and I wanted to honour that in Jake, or the feelings of what he was going through, self-loathing and that kind of, you know, like just that nihilistic kind of like thing, and you know, just trying to build that up within Jake, and then the smoke starts coming in the car, and you can see him kind of crying, and all of those things I wanted to make sure they had truth to, so that when someone was watching, and that's what all the actors are trying to do, so that when someone's watching that, they go, yeah, I believe that guy is in a position where he feels like that's his only way out, you know. And then there was not only that, at the end of that scene, there was the decision that he made to actually back out of it, right? He opens the door and he gets down, he breathes in the air and stuff like that. He's like, that was the lowest point for him. And I think that actually, come back to that other question, probably that's the point when the transition probably just, because it was so, not only had he tried to kill himself, he wasn't even able to finish the job. How shitty does that make you feel? Gets out and he's like, I couldn't even do that. I could not even top myself, you know what I mean? And I really, empathise and sympathise with anyone who's lost someone to suicide, because it's obviously not a laughing matter, you know. But for that moment, I had to really dig deep into who I was and find things that triggered me in a certain way to be able to make that stuff believable for Jake, you know. So, and then the second part of the question, how do you you process that and sort of
how do you cope with that,
as a person, as an actor? That's right. And the thing is, I think that's a really good question for all of the actors on Wentworth, because there are all actors had to do some crazy shit, right? All of the actors had to do something that was kind of like either triggered them in some way, or it was kind of abusive in some way that kind of, that you have to process that outside of the scene. There was a lot of support, and that's why when I say family, it was a real family. Everybody was there to support each other. If someone was doing a scene like that, people would be around them and saying, "Are you okay?" There was always access to a psychologist if you needed it, to sort of, if you wanted to talk through stuff. But it was also, I think the main thing was just the mood that we created on the set, right? Which was one of, let's have fun, let's enjoy what we're doing here. We had a laugh. Like, Pamela Rabe is a goof, I can tell you. Like, she's doing this sort of crazy shit on screen, and then she'd get off and make some sort of stupid joke, and everyone just pissed themselves laughing, you know what I mean? And then you just felt that pressure, just like, poof, it was a pressure release sort of thing. So when you got off a scene like that, people knew that you had done the scene in the green room. You come back to the green room, people go, "Oh man, how did that scene go?" "Oh yeah, it was really full on. It was crazy and stuff." Like, "Are you okay? You feeling?" "Yeah, I think I'm able to sort of process it." But I think it was that whole thing of the mood on the set was so much fun that we were able to just hit that pressure release button whenever we wanted it to, so it never got to the point where things were so built up with pressure that it would start to affect people on a personal level. So I think that hopefully that answers your question, but that's how we got through it, is by supporting each other and not taking ourselves too seriously when we got off the stage, you know what I mean? So it was so much fun. We all had a real laugh as well as cry, so yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Last question over here on the right, and we've got one more down there, and then Bernard can go ahead to his photo ops. Thank you guys so much. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Dottie, and I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Hi, Dottie.
Thank you for coming out. Thank you for sharing your art.
Cheers.
And I had a question, because you've worked in different productions across, off the globe, what can you tell us about production in country in Australia versus here in North America? What can you tell us about Hollywood versus Australian production?
Yeah, so I've got a couple of cool little stories, experiences about that. So it does differ. The production process is pretty much the same of television. So let's just talk about the television. It is a process of the process of rehearsing and getting to set and everything is pretty much the same. There are a few key differences, and one of them is, and I learned this when I came out here for the first time. In fact, the first year we lived in LA, I didn't work on one production, so I was like, I'm not even sure if I'm any good, right? Am I good enough to survive in this town? So Hollywood itself, as an industry, can be brutal. It's, people say, "Oh, it's a glamorous Hollywood and stuff." It's a grind. It's a really hard work. It's hard work of constant self-evaluation. Am I good enough? Am I working hard enough? Am I doing enough to get through? And then that whole thing of you do audition after audition after audition after audition, and you're just knocking your head against the wall until that mortar starts to get loose, and then a brick starts to kind of fall away and you can get through. And constantly being told, no, you're not good enough. You're not good enough to get that role or that role or that role. And dealing with that and processing that is that's universal, no matter whether you're in Australia or LA. But in LA, I found you do a lot more auditioning, because that's kind of the center of the world for casting. No matter if stuff shoots in Atlanta or in Toronto or wherever, it's still cast out of LA. So that's where the hard work goes on of casting these productions. So you do a lot more auditioning in LA than you do in Australia. Australia is, you don't do that much auditioning. So I felt like part of the thing that I got, the benefit that I got of living in LA for 5 years was you become a weapon at auditioning. You're working that muscle so much that you come back into Australia and you just knock them out the park every time. You walk into that audition room and you just own the space, and that resonates with the casting director. So that experience you have of just doing it over and over and over again makes you a better actor, makes you a stronger actor and a stronger person. But like my first experience coming over here, one of the key differences is what's called stand-ins. So, you would, and the actor would go to the set and you would block the scene out. Okay, you're going to do this, and you're going to walk over to the sink, you're going to pour yourself a glass, you're going to smash the glass over someone's head or whatever you're going to do. You block the scene. And then as they light, then once they've figured out what they're going to do, the camera department, the lighting and stuff, they go in there and they light and they kind of set it all up, and then the art department sets it all up and everything. That sometimes takes half an hour, sometimes takes longer, sometimes takes less, but in America there's a thing called stand-ins, so they would have people come in and stand in the spot that you're going to be on the set, so they can light for your view, and they can actually cast these stand-ins to be the same height, same skin colour, so they can light that person in the situation they're seeing, and then they call that second team, and then they go, okay, now we're ready for first team comes in, and then you shoot the scene. You don't have that in Australia, right? You just got to stand there by yourself, or sometimes a crew member will stand there or whatever if they really need you to stand there, right? So I get out here on my first production, which is a thing called Hit the Floor, my very first US production, and I'm like really excited to be there. I'm like, yeah, I got a gig in LA, and I'm on my way. So I get to the set and we rehearse his first scene and block it out on the set, and this guy comes over and he taps me on the shoulder and says, Hey, buddy, I'm Jason, I'm your stand-in. And I'm like, oh, hey, man, that's cool, I'll do it. No worries, man. I'll stand here, I'll be fine. You go and relax. And he's looking at me like, that's my job. So, I'm like, hey, you go relax, man, I'll do it, I'll stand here. It's like, well, if you do that, then I don't have a job and I get fired, And he kind of had to explain that to me. I'm like, oh, yeah, man, you stand there. I thought I was doing him a favor by saying, no, man, I could have got him fired for doing that, So you sort of have to go off to your trailer and sit there and do whatever, and while they're lighting the scene and stuff. And, I would usually just sort of sit around watching, because when I do some acting teaching, and I always tell my students, learn as much as you can about everything on the set. Learn. And if you get a chance to be on a set and you're acting, you do your acting. A lot of people just leave, they just take off. Stay there. Watch what the camera department's doing. Watch what audio's doing with the microphone, and then kind of learn. And it's what the thing that I call set craft, which is not just about knowing how to be an actor and how to create a character and process a script and that sort of stuff. That's the acting part. Then there's the set craft part, which is knowing when to there's a mark on the thing, you've got to hit that mark, and you can't be doing this, right? Because it just looks unnatural. I'm looking for the mark, I'm doing that. So just knowing that there's a mark there, and you being able to hit that every single time without looking down. Knowing if you're in someone's light, if you're making a shadow on someone, you get out of their light and everything like that. It's all of these things that go to being a professional actor and knowing how to behave on a set and everything. So. Now I've just lost what the actual question was.
The differences between Australian productions.
That was it. So I told him that's the difference, and then when you get used to that, you come back to Australia and they go, okay, we're going to light the scene. Bernie, can you stand up? Where's the second team? You got a second team in here? No, Bernie, we don't do that in Australia. You get to fucking stand there yourself. All right, Jesus. I wouldn't do this in LA. Okay? All right, seeing as no, I'm not really like that. But yeah, so there are some of those sorts of things, and there is also this feels like there is a much more of a hierarchy here in terms of the actors. You have a number on the call sheet. You're number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever. And you number 1 on the call sheet is always like there is a real apex, and there's a kind of it is a hierarchy, and that's how you have to treat people. Whereas on Wentworth, for example, like I was saying, we're a real family, but it was a real ensemble. It was not one person who's like, I'm the star of this show, and everyone else. I mean, even Danielle Cormack, who I guess when you look at her, at B. Smith's kind of trajectory, she feels like she was the focus. There was a focus and stuff. But even Dan was never, I'm number one and you guys are sort of subservient in some way. It was always a really open, collaborative, and the word generosity. It was a generous place to be. Because as an actor, I feel like you have to be generous, meaning, because when the camera's looking at you, you're kind of giving everything to try and do everything for your character, and then the camera comes around and looks at the other person. And some people just don't give quite as big a performance. But I'm almost like, and what the setup was on Wentworth, everybody would give as much in performance to the other person to be able to act off when they're on screen as what you would expect to get when you're on screen. So that was why it was a really open, collaborative, and generous environment that we were all working in. Yeah.
Great question. Last question for Bernie over here on the left. Thank you guys for all the great questions. They were awesome.
Hey Bernie, my name is Matt, and I am from Pensacola, Florida.
Hey Matt.
And my wife and I were so excited to come to Wentworth Con, and I forgot to buy her an anniversary card. So I wanted to wish my wife Lauren happy 2-year anniversary.
Happy 2-year anniversary. Big round of applause, everybody. There's many more.
Nice save, brother. Nice save.
So we started binge watching the show just a couple years ago during the height of the pandemic, and man, absolutely loved it. And while my wife was super excited to get here to see Nicole Da Silva, that's her girl crush.
Yeah.
And I just found out like 3 or 4 days ago that my dog Jake was coming, and I was like, You were one of my favorite characters. The passion and vulnerability you brought to your character, man, it was awesome. And I just want to say you have helped make this event special for me.
Oh wow! Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Got a lot of Wentworth aficionados in here, but maybe you could tell us 2 or 3 things, kind of from behind the scenes that maybe would surprise us, that we might not have known before.
Right now, this is a great way to be able to kind of divulge some of these secrets, because it's all done, right? We can say anything that went on. There was a cool thing that was sort of set up, right? I mean, it actually wasn't set up. It was a complete accident. Early on in season 4, Jake's character was always written to be kind of sexually ambiguous. You know what I mean? In terms of his sexuality, and there was this thing between Jake and Will in the change room. I've got my top off and and my pants off, and I'm right up in his kind of face, and he's sitting down, and it's a little bit of there was a bit of a homoerotic kind of feel going on, and he's like, put some pants on and this is, everyone has to share this change room, put some pants on. I'm like, yeah, just relax, princess, that's the thing. And the art department, there was the guy who was the standby props guy called Paris, right? Really lovely guy, super guy. And he just happened to put this towel on the towel hook right by where Will was sitting. And the towel just happened to have this kind of tropical picture in the middle, and on the end of the towel was what looked like the pride flag, right? It was like rainbow colours. But, he just put it up there, this sort of set dressing sort of thing. And then he comes to me a little while later after that episode had aired. We were doing the next season. He said, "Hey Bernie, check this out." There was some chatter online with some of the fan forums and stuff going, "Hey, look, they put the pride flag in the scene when Jake and Will are there." And I'm like, "Did you do that?" He goes, "No, I didn't. That was not the thing that I intended to do at all." He said, "But hey, if they want that, let's do it. Let's create, And he's like, creating worlds, Bernie, creating worlds. So if you go back and watch it, almost every time Jake is at those lockers, opens a locker, towel's there with the pride colours, And then if I'm got a towel or something, there it is and everything, and then when we finished the finals, the episode, you know, my final thing, that guy Paris came and gave me a package, and I'm like, oh, you didn't give me a present, and I opened it, it's the towel, so I've still got the towel at home, right? And so, it's now like, it could be this sort of train spotting thing now, where you go, oh, here's a scene with Jake in the change room, there it is, there's the towel, I see it, it's somewhere up there, or it's behind the thing, or it's whatever, so, you know, it's one of those cool little things that kind of happened that nobody really knew about. You know, well now everyone does. So let me think of another cool thing. The final photo shoot that we did for the final episode happened on a Saturday that after we had actually wrapped, but we didn't have a wrap party because it was still that lockdown. So the line producer said, you have one beer at the end of wrap and then you've all got to go home because it's still curfew and you've all got to go home. Normally we'd have a massive wrap party and everyone would get shit-faced, you know. And we had this photo shoot. So this kind of photo shoot became our sort of impromptu wrap party. So everyone brought a bottle of champagne to the thing and stuff. So we're doing this photo shoot and everyone's completely pissed, right? We're all drunk and we're kind of, you know, we've got champagne, we've got a serious photo, take a serious photo, cross your arms, all that sort of shit. And then, got another champagne, yeah, we go, okay, serious. So, I don't know if you see any of those final publicity shots, you might see a few bleary eyes, you know, because we were all really drunk. Because there was no other chance for us to sort of have a sort of a farewell to the show and to the characters and to, you know, to everybody as actors as well, you know, to the family. So yeah, that's a couple of little ones. I'll try and think of a few more, you know, through the course of the day. I'll share a few more of the behind the scenes anecdotes. Thank you, man.
Thank you so much for the question.
And one thing you were saying also before, your wife and you just binged the show. It's such a bingeable show, right? Like when we watch it, it's like, oh my god, I need to know what happens next, and let's go another one. And it's 2 a.m. and you're like, I gotta work tomorrow. Let's watch another one. Right? But that's what was unique to the show is that we knew there were fans, but we as actors and all the people who worked on the show, we were all fans of the show as well. Right? And that's really important. It doesn't happen all the time. You know, people go, oh, it's just a job, I'm going to go and do my job and then I'm going to piss off, I'm not even going to watch that show. We were all real big fans of the show as well.
We can tell.
So thank you guys.
Give it up for everybody.
Thank you, everyone. You guys are amazing.
If you guys already have a ticket.